Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host, Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a great day and above all else that you're indeed looking after yourselves and one another. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I am continuing with my Made in Canada series that I started with Ken Cheshire a few weeks ago. And today I'm going to be giving you part one of my 10 favorite albums. Now, there are 10 albums, so to make it easier, I'm going to spread it across two episodes. So in part one, I'm going to go through albums 10 through 6. And in part two, you guessed it, I'm going to go through albums 5 through 1. Now, in putting this list together, I could have come up with at least 20 albums to discuss, but I thought I'd keep it simple and just keep it at 10. And some of these albums you may know, I know you will know, and some you may have heard about, but never really listened to or never really sought out. So hopefully by watching these two segments, you'll find something new to listen to, which is never a bad thing, right? Okay, so coming in at number 10, I have FM with Black Noise. Now, before I continue, there are two bands with the name FM. There's a British band and a Canadian band. And obviously, this is a Canadian band. Black Noise was released in 1978, recorded in 1977. Now, FM are a band from Toronto. They're still together today, touring. And they started out as a duo consisting of Cameron Hawkins on bass, synth, piano, and vocals, sorry, and one Jeff Pluman on violin, mandolin, and vocals, and various effects. Now, Jeff would quickly adopt the stage name Natch the Slash. And what made Natch the Slash so unique was that you never saw his face. He always had his face wrapped up in white gauze and usually wore sunglasses to protect his eyes so you wouldn't see what he really looked like. Now, for Black Noise, they expanded to a trio under Brown, Martin Deller for drums, percussions, and synthesizers. Now, Black Noise is a very interesting story. The album was recorded at the CBC Radio Studios, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation Studios, who offered FM a chance to record an album proper. And there were only 500 copies pressed of this album originally. And the album was given away to radio listeners for whoever won contests and stuff. So it didn't get a wide release in the stores until they were signed to Visa Records in the US and Passport Records in Canada. Now, this album, Black Noise, has been listed as jazz fusion, space rock, and progressive rock. I would call it more space rock and jazz fusion than progressive rock, but what do I know, right? Now, it starts off with the track Phasers on Stun. And what's unique about the track is it starts off with Nash Slash playing the mandolin, but he plays only two notes on the mandolin, and the notes pan from left to right on the stereo channel. So it's quite unique, and keyboards come in very sort of ethereal, I guess you'd say outer space kind of a feel to it. And then the drums come in with Martin on the drums. Very sparse drumming in terms of the arrangement, but very effective. Phases on Stun was basically one of the only tracks released as a quote unquote single from the album, and it's the best known track from the album. Other songs of note on the album are the instrumental Hours, a Martin Deller composition, which is pretty much a jazz fusion track, and also another instrumental, Dialing for Dharma, which is a Nash Slash and Cameron Hawkins piece that ends off the album at 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Eight tracks in total, five tracks on side one and three tracks on side two. I should also mention that Nash Slash would leave FM after the release of this album to have his own solo career. They would reunite, sorry, in 1985 for the album Contest, and for Duke Street Records. And that album was more of a pop-oriented album. And Black Noise was recently reissued as far back as 2016 on Esoteric Records. And if you know of Esoteric's reissue packaging, they do a really good job with liner notes, etc. So that's number 10. Coming in at number 9, I have Chilliwack with their self-titled sophomore album. They have two albums that were self-titled. This album was released in September of 1971 through A&M Records. The band started out, I should say, too, in BC under the name The Collectors. And Bill Henderson, who is still with the band today, and Claire Lawrence were the two main members of the band, two main songwriters. They quickly changed their name to Chilliwack, although they were getting known quite prominently as the Collectors in LA because they were touring down there. But they changed their name to Chilliwack. They released one album, their first album under the name Chilliwack, self-titled, for Parrot Records. Parrot Records also was known for signing Tom Jones and Gilbert Humperdinck. Parrot Records was distributed through London Records. They were quickly dropped when the first album didn't do well. They signed with A&M in the States, and they released the second self-titled with a playing time of 70 minutes and 58 seconds. Fantastic album. You have a mix of rock, folk, country, progressive, and psychedelic rock. It starts off with Lonesome Mary, Bill Henderson track, just under 3 minutes long, 2 minutes and 59 seconds. This track uh, was a top 10 hit in Canada, and it's known for Bill Henderson's vocal ability. He had a great ability to hit the higher octave when he would do the end of the choruses on the track. Beautiful track. And it's still a radio staple on classic FM radio today. So other songs to note on the album, there are 9 tracks on the album, a double album. You have 5 songs on side one, 2 songs on side two. Uh, Side three has an epic suite called Music for a Quiet Time, and side two has a 17-minute and 9-second suite called Night Morning. But first of all, other songs on side one are Rosie, fantastic track. Again, most of the tracks are written by Claire Lawrence and Bill Henderson. Uh, Ridin' is another good song, folk country there. And Ride Out is another fantastic track, 4 minutes and 51 seconds. Side two, you have 2 tracks, Always, 2 minutes and 22 seconds, and you have the 13 minute, 36-second track, Changing Reels, which is where they get into more of the psychedelia portion of their repertoire in terms of the arrangements and stuff. Side three is again Music for a Quiet Time. There are 6 pieces to this extended piece: Shine, Claps and Chants, uh, Whistle, Flute Pads, and also other two notable sections to this piece: Traveling Music and Sleep Music. So, with this album, you really go through a journey in terms of the musical palette that they covered for this album. And I recommended this album to Jim Bricker, and and he liked it. He was thinking about picking it up. I'm not sure if he bought it yet, but I mean, I've always said learning new music is never a waste. Coming in at number 8, we have Harmonium with Les Cinq Saisons. Now, Harmonium were a French progressive rock band from Quebec, headed up by Serge Fiori. Sorry, unfortunately, we lost Serge Fiori a few weeks ago. And Le Cinq Saisons had the original title of, in English, If We Needed a Fifth Season. And this is a sophomore release released on April 15th, 1975 through Polydor Records. Now, Harmonium are basically considered a mega band in Quebec, pretty much a juggernaut in the Canadian progressive rock scene. Uh, they would also record for other labels as CBS in Canada. There are five tracks on this album. This album has a playing time of 42 minutes, and it's basically an album of acoustic guitar, really intricate acoustic guitar, fantastic harmonies, um, a lot of use of flute and mellotron, dripping with mellotron, as Jim would say, as he would do the motion with his hands. Again, starts off with the track Green. Uh, again, 5 minutes and 34 seconds. Wonderful track. Again, very intricate acoustic guitar passages. Other songs of note on the album are Dixie at 3 minutes and 26 seconds, and the last track on side one called Since the Autumn. Again, all of the tracks are written by Serge Fiori, co-written by Serge Fiori. Since the Autumn clocks in at 10 minutes and 25 seconds. Again, a lot of use of flute, acoustic guitar, mellotron, very intricate harmony vocals, and very layered, textured passages on this album. Side two, there are two tracks. In the Face, 4 minutes and 51 seconds. Again, another fantastic track. And it ends off with the 17-minute, 12-second opus, uh, Stories Without Words. And there's many pieces to this track. You have Isolation, The Call, The Meeting, The Union, and The Grand Ball. And again, co-written by Serge Fiori. Beautiful. A lot of, again, use of mellotron, a lot of symphonic elements on this album, which I love. Um, th- this is an amazing album. The first album that they, self-titled was more of a folk album in terms of just a lot of acoustic guitars. And it's got to be said, they were really influenced by Joni Mitchell. I saw an interview with Serge in the 90s, late 90s. I believe it was the late 90s. And he said that whenever Joni Mitchell would come out with a new album, he and the rest of the band would just stop what they were doing, lay on the floor, and just listen to the album and just soak in whatever she was doing. So they were majorly influenced by Joni Mitchell. Um, they would release three albums between Polydor and CBS, self-titled The Sex Saison, this album, and their third album, which was a double album called Leptade. Now, Leptade, fantastic piece of work, and it would sell, that album alone would sell in the region of 450,000 copies in Quebec alone. So they were megastars in Quebec, right? Uh, Coming in at number seven, we have Max Webster with their self-titled. Max Webster, fronted by one Kim Mitchell, fantastic vocalist and very underrated guitarist from Toronto. Max Webster would form in 1972. They would release their self-titled originally through Taurus Records. They would eventually sign with Rush's label in Canada, Anthem Entertainment, and they would reissue the album. This album was released in the US under the name of Hangover, the lead-off track, through Polygram, through Mercury, and then they would sign to Capitol in the US. Now, Max Webster, again, if I didn't say forming in, I believe I said forming in 1972, pretty much balls to the wall rock band. Amazing guitarist in Kim Mitchell, intricate compositions, but pretty much in your face rock, and but very accessible at the same time. Uh, they would go through some lineup changes, but I'll tell you who is on the album. Performing on the self-titled, you have Kim Mitchell on guitars and lead vocals, Terry Watkinson, fantastic vocalist and songwriter on keyboards and vocals. He also did the cover art for this album. Mike Titka on bass and vocals, and excuse me, Paul Kersey on drums and percussion. Paul Kersey would leave after the release of this album, and Mike Tick, I believe, would stick around for the second album, High Class and Borrowed Shoes. But if we want to get back to this album, self-titled, fantastic album. Starts off with Hangover, uh, pretty much balls to the wall rock. But also there was also in this album for me a bit of a comedic twist with the lyrics and on this album. The lyrics were provided by Pi Dubois, who co-wrote with Kim Mitchell quite a bit for Max Webster and his solo career. And Pi Dubois would also be co credited as a co-writer on Tom Sawyer for Rush. Now, starts off with Hangover, and it is again balls to the wall, just beautifully done. Heavy rock, beautiful guitar, and just amazing intricate drum pattern from Paul Kersey. Now, again, another balls out rock track here among the cats. Just 3 minutes and 7 seconds, but packed with just beautiful rock. Just, again, very accessible, heavy rock music. Up next is Blowing the Blues Away, a Terry Watkinson track, 3 minutes and 33 seconds. Uh, ch- Again, I like Terry's vocals, and he would provide vocals on some of the tracks on the albums. Um, Again, as I go through my notes, this album is chock full of amazing tracks. Other songs of note are the final track on side one, Toronto Tantos, at 3 minutes and 40 seconds. This is where the comedy element comes through in the band. This track is very unique to the album and to the rest of their catalog. I don't even know what it's about. They do different voices, different effects on this track, but it's brilliant. It's just the comedic timing on this track is just wonderful. Other songs on the album, for me, side two is the final track, Lily, written by Kim Mitchell, at 7 minutes and 42 seconds. This is where the progressive rock element comes in on the album. Again, very intricate, beautiful keyboard work from Terry Watkinson, and multi-section piece, but wonderfully done. Wonderfully done. This album doesn't get a lot of attention. When you think of Kim Mitchell, when anyone mentions, sorry, Max Webster, I'm sorry, I mixed it up because Max Webster is synonymous with the name Kim Mitchell as the lead singer and lead guitarist. When you think of Max Webster, you think of albums like High Class and Borrowed Shoes, their sophomore release. But this album, the self-titled, needs a bit more attention, in my very humble opinion. And the band would tour quite regularly with Rush. Rush looked at them as their little brothers in terms of bands, and their Geddy Lee called them their music little brothers in terms of musical little brothers in terms of touring together in terms of the bands. They they admired one another, and Rush believed that Max Webster had something to offer musically. Um, that's number seven. Coming in at number six, we have Saga with the self-titled, released April 8th, 1978 through Polydor at 46 minutes and 1 second. Saga were a five-piece band, or are a five-piece band, sorry, in Toronto, fronted by one Michael Sadler on uh, keyboards and vocals. But for this album, I will tell you who is playing on the album as I go through my notes. Uh, the band would go through various members, but they would settle on uh, a, um a permanent lineup in 1980. The original band had Michael Sadler, as I said, on vocals, keyboards, bass, and various instruments. Uh, Peter Rochon on synthesizer, keyboards, and orchestrations for this album. Uh, Ian Crichton on guitars, and Jim Crichton on bass, mini Moog, bass pedals, various instruments, and Steve Negus on drums and percussion. Now, what made Saga so unique was that their sound was considered to be progressive rock. Although when I talked to Steve Negus last year for an interview, he said they really didn't like that label for the band. But I guess if you have to give a band a label, you know, you give them a label. And in terms of progressive rock, th uh, the guitars took a bit of a back seat, I would say. The keyboards and synthesizers were very prominent in terms of the first batch of albums in the 90s and into the 2000s. It was more stripped down to heavy rock, heavy guitar oriented tracks, heavy drumming. Keyboards are still there, but getting back to this album, the self-titled, 8 tracks in total, fantastic. Really full, rich drum sound. This album was produced by Paul A. Gross, recorded at Phase One Studios in Toronto. And unfortunately, when it was released, it was really only a hit in Switzerland, where it reached number 33. It starts off with How Long, one of the singles from the album. Strong drum pattern from Steve Negus, very thick, rich, full snare drum sound. And the keyboard passage that comes in, I looked this up. I do believe it's a 1/16th note that Peter Rochon is playing. Great vocals from Michael Sadler. Just amazing. And there are inspirations in terms of bands that they listen to. Gentle Giant was an inspiration for Saga as a group. So other songs of note are Humble Stance featuring Michael Sadler on bass and keyboards. Um, Climbing the Ladder is a fantastic track, track 3. Now, side one ends off with um, Will It Be You? Now, what they did for the group for the first 4 albums, they started a story, a science fiction story on a young Albert Einstein and his adventures and his experiences and the journey that this uh, individual goes on. And they wrote this story and they I was going to say divided it up in chapters. And they would pepper the albums, the first 4 albums, with these chapters. Now, the chapters would stop after the fourth album release of Worlds Apart, but the chapters would pick up again in the 2000s. And there are 16 chapters overall. Uh, there is no studio recording of all the chapters put together, but there is a live album called The Chapters Live, which was released in 2003. And I do believe that that's the last recording that Steve Negus appears with the band um, on record, but don't quote me on that. But what they would do is with these chapters, they would not do the chapters in chronological order. So, for example, on the debut album, you have Will It Be You clocking in at 7 minutes and 13 seconds, and it's chapter 4. And Tired World would end off side 2, and that's chapter 6. Now, so you would have to really buy the albums in order to follow the story through in terms of the chapters saga, no pun intended. But Will It Be You? Fantastic vocals from Michael Sadler. Um, he has a unique vocal style. Very prominent, very strong, very forceful, very bright. Sort of, for me, I know who's singing when I hear the songs. Great, great vocalist. Another song of note on this album is called Perfectionist. It starts off side two at 5 minutes and 46 seconds. This track is a rock waltz in 3/4 time, and it tells the story of elderly Sneed, who had one great need to do everything just right. If things were not planned and done by hand, he would ready himself for a fight. Those are the lyrics from, the first verse. This is about a character who was such a perfectionist that one day he realizes that when he dies, there won't be anybody around to witness it. So he sets about planning his own death. And he's going one step further, guys. He's not going on his own. He's going to have a dinner party and he's going to plan everything, have an amazing meal, and he's going to serve poison wine at the end and serve his guests, and just to make sure that they go before he does, and then he will commit suicide. So dark song, but fantastic track. Very fluid keyboards and synths from Peter Roshan on this track. Multi-section, but very grand, very epic in its presentation and arrangement. Other songs of note on the album, and then I will stop for this part one, is Ice Nice, track seven on the album, 6 minutes and 55 seconds, and pretty much talks about the perils of gambling and how much you need to control yourself, but you really think you're in control, but you're not. You're fooling yourself, basically. Again, fantastic keyboard driven track, beautiful, thick synth textures, again, very heavy on the drums, but very tight, very in sync. Multi-section piece. Again, I like Steve Negus and his drumming on this album. On any album that he did with Saga, but this album, along with the first three albums, have the snare drums are very full and rich when they come in, just beautifully done and wonderfully recorded by Paul A. Gross. So there you have it, guys. Part one of 10 favorite albums from a Made in Canada series. Please stay tuned for part two, where I'm gonna go through my albums five through one. Again, some of these albums you may know of, and some of them you may not, but they're fantastic nonetheless. And again, if I didn't mention this, I believe I did, but all of these albums I'm going to be talking about in these two episodes can be listened to for free on YouTube. So please check them out. And if you know of these albums, let me know what you think of them in the comments down below. And again, I'd like to get a dialogue going on this. And I'd love to get your feedback. So please look after yourselves and one another. Click like and subscribe, and do hit the notification bell to keep yourselves on top of any new content we've got coming up. And I will see you soon on the Music Den. Bye for now.